You the franchise. Well, sorta. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be ranking the 3 Disney Mulan films as part of my franchise Rankography series. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, ranked lists, and trailer reactions. So what is a Rankography exactly? Well, it's my ranking of a filmography, whether that be a director's output, an actor's appearances, or even an entire franchise. My rankographies are based on personal preference, and I rank movies according to how much I enjoyed them, rather than any specific technical merit or attribute. Remember, this is just my ranking, not the ranking, so be sure to post your own personal ranking of the Mulan franchise in the comments below. Mulan's a big one for me. That original animated film was a huge part of my childhood, and almost rivals The Lion King in terms of the lasting impact that it had on me as both a movie fan and a person. The sequel was a film I saw contemporaneously, but hadn't revisited in a while, and the live-action remake was a movie I had a lot of reservations about. In spite of all that, this was one of the easier rankographies for me, because I had a pretty clear order in my head after watching all of them. I've already reviewed all 3 of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below, and also link them up in the cards as we go along. Let's get this rankography started. Coming in at number 3, Mulan II. I'm sure that this is a pretty common placement for this movie in people's rankings, but there's no denying that this is the weakest of the bunch. I have a feeling that some may stick it in the number 3 spot just because it's a direct-to-video sequel, but there's a lot more to it than just that for me. These animated sequels are obviously never going to surpass their original films, and with only a handful of exceptions, they're rarely any good. But the problem with Mulan 2 isn't just that it's mediocre or an unnecessary cash grab. The problem's that it actively works to undo the positives of the first film. Now, obviously that can't alter our feelings about that first film, but it can certainly taint the sequel. It honestly feels like the writers never even bothered to watch the first movie. They take the excellent, strong Mulan character and restrain all of her positive characteristics before diminishing her presence to the point that she's barely a side character. The story's focus and messages drastically shift too, and the story of a strong, independent female character is suddenly all about marriage and relationship drama. Additionally, Mushu, who possessed the most fully realized character arc in the first film, regresses into an unrecognizably spiteful and unlikable character here. Coming in at number 2, Mulan, the 2020 live-action remake. I definitely had reservations about this movie. The prospect of more Mulan should have had me excited from the start, but it just didn't seem like a Disney movie that would benefit from the live-action treatment. And when the trailers came out, unlike seemingly everybody else, I was underwhelmed and more than a touch concerned. The release delay only lengthened this period of concern, but when I finally got a chance to see this one, I went in hopeful. I genuinely wanted to like it, but I just didn't. My initial fear was that I was going to be disappointed by all the changes from the animated film, but the lack of songs and Mushu ended up being the least of my issues with the movie. This film benefits greatly from the source material, both the Chinese legend and the animated film, from which it draws a number of elements. That story and premise keep this movie afloat, but it's a very hollow rendition of the tale. It's stilted and extremely on the nose with its dialogue. And it's this weird contradictory thing, because the simplistic and over-obvious way it presents its story and themes feels like it's catering to kids, but at the same time, it's trying to be a more serious-toned wuxia war movie, and those two elements just don't jive very well. I certainly did successfully temper my expectations, but I was still underwhelmed and disappointed by this. So that means my number 1 Mulan is Mulan, the 1998 animated original. If you've seen my Mulan review, or honestly any of my Disney reviews, I'm sure this is no surprise. Mulan is my second favorite Disney animated film, behind only The Lion King. It's a movie whose story and lead character have deeply resonated with me since I was 8 years old and first saw it in the theater. Up until that point, I wasn't a big fan of human-centric Disney movies. Princesses were never my thing, and romantic subplots were always a little dull to me, so the animal movies were always more appealing. But Mulan was different. Here, we had a strong, independent female character as the lead. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't a damsel in distress or a character put there just to be able to include a love story. She was there to challenge norms, to protect her family, and to do it all without the expectation of glory. She was the kind of female character I needed to see in a Disney movie. And on top of that, the film had everything else I needed in a Disney movie too. An impactful, well-crafted story, entertaining comedy, fantastic and memorable songs, including one that instantly became my all-time favorite Disney song. It was quotable, it was emotional and inspiring, and it had a number of really important themes and messages that impacted me even as a kid. Mulan remains one of my favorite movies of all time, and I really don't anticipate it ever dropping from that coveted number 2 spot behind The Lion King. Alright, so that's my rankography of the Mulan franchise. One animated classic, one direct-to-video sequel, and one live-action remake, all containing one of my favorite characters of all time. What does your ranking look like? I'd love to see some reasoning for your order, so be sure to post it in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed all 3 of these movies, so you can check those videos out if you want some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this rankography, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or add it so you can see more rankographies like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.